meeting. I will start the meeting as the scrutiny officer, as we don't have a chair yet. So I will start. Let me get my note up. So I'm just going to say good morning and welcome everyone to the first meeting of Partneriaeth Scrutiny Councillor Group. My name is Michelle Roberts and I am your scrutiny support officer. I will start with item 1 and some practicalities. From an email previously, Councillor Lyndon Jones from Swansea has volunteered to chair this first meeting, and I've prepared the agenda with him. So if everyone's happy with that. But we will need to elect a chair and a vice chair moving forward. In the legal agreement, it says, the chair and the vice chair of the Scrutiny Councillor Group shall be elected by yourselves for a term to be determined by yourselves. May I suggest that this be a 2-year period to reflect that of the chair of the joint committee. The chair and the vice chair of the Scrutiny Councillor Group should not be from the same council as the chair of the joint committee. Therefore, chair and vice chair of the councillor group will fall to Swansea and Pembrokeshire. Councillor Lyndon Jones has put his name forward to chair for the first 2-year period if this is agreeable to the working group. Then, by default, the vice chair will fall to Pembrokeshire. May I suggest that Councillor Hugh Murphy be nominated as the vice chair in his role as the chair of the educating related scrutiny body. So if I can put that to you all, if the councillors are in agreement with Councillor Lyndon Jones being chair, can you, I think, I don't know if there's a hands up facility in this, is there? Put your name or come on and say, I agree.
Yeah, Hugh Murphy, I agree. And Katina or Lyndon Jones.
I agree with Lyndon Jones chairing for the next 2 years.
Great.
Yeah, I agree also, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. And the proposal then was that Councillor Hugh Murphy be the vice chairman. And does everybody agree? I'd certainly would propose that.
Yeah.
All great. Thank you, and thank you for the confidence. I look forward to us working hard as a scrutiny group to make sure we get the very best from education in this area. Are there any apologies, Michelle?
Sorry, Linda, just one more thing I wanted to say about that membership. Sorry, I've nearly finished. It's just, I've just said finally, each member of the group is allowed to nominate a named sub should they not be able to attend. So I'll be contacting yourselves and your Democratic Services officers to arrange this. So if you're unable to attend, it has to be somebody who's already previously named and we've got their details, but if you're unable to attend, you can send your named sub. Thank you. Over to you, Linda.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any apologies? I understand the lead director, Gareth Morgans, is unable to be with us, but is being represented by Helen Morgan-Rees, who is the Director of Education in Swansea. Are there any other apologies?
We've had no other apologies.
Great, thanks. Are there any declarations of interest? That's a complete silence. I assume not. So that's great. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, we're going through this very quickly, is the role of Partneriaeth Scrutiny Councillor Group. And over to Michelle.
Hello, yes. I'll go through this very briefly. I assume you've read the details, so I won't go through it in any detail, but just a few things I wanted to highlight. The first is that we need to develop a forward work programme. You'll find this later in the agenda for you to discuss, and this is based on the legal agreement. The rules of procedure and access to information will be those of the responsibility of the administration of the scrutiny function, which is Swansea. Members of the councillor group shall be subject to their own codes of conduct for their councils. The quorum of meetings will be no less than 3 councillors, which must include at least 1 from each of the 3 councils. The Partneriaeth lead officer and the or a lead director to education shall attend all meetings. The chair of the joint committee shall attend at least once per annum. The director of education of each of the councils shall attend together at least once per annum, and these terms of reference will be reviewed annually. So if there's not any questions, I'll hand that over to you for any questions on that.
Great. Any questions, anyone? No. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. And could I say, Michelle Roberts is the acting as scrutiny officer for this group, and of course she's scrutiny officer for the education scrutiny group in Swansea. So thanks, Michelle. Right, the next item on the agenda is the overview of the role of Partneriaeth and the legal agreement, and that's by the lead director and the lead officer. So that is today is Helen Morgan-Rees and Ian Altman. I don't know which order you want to go in, or
Thank you, Lyndon. I'll go first with just a few words in terms of the background to this legal agreement. So in terms of overview, the agreement has been put together in the terms of final draft, and that position was reached by April of this year. We had a draft agreement at the same time this time last year, and the legal agreement is an official document. And with the agreement, I would like to draw your attention to some of the schedules to the legal agreement for the regional work that we have ongoing. So Schedule 2, the functions of the partnership, Partneriaeth, are clear in Schedule 2, and they provide a very clear direction for us towards the work of the partnership, Partneriaeth, in terms of our work dealing around education at a regional level and in education improvement within Carmarthenshire, Pembrokeshire and Swansea. Then Schedules 3 to 6, as has already been mentioned by Michelle, the terms of reference exist for each group around the governance of Partneriaeth, and they are clearly stipulated in those schedules. So we heard from Michelle adds to the terms of reference for this group, but all terms of reference are clearly stated in Schedule 3 to 6. In terms then of Schedule 9, there is a very specific reference to annual finance for Partneriaeth. And as you will see in the item that we have next on this morning's agenda, there is mention of the joint committee that met at the beginning of October. And there's also mention in the minutes of that meeting around the annual funding. By now, the annual funding has been approved, hopefully, by each of the 3 local authorities in Partneriaeth. Certainly in Swansea, the local authority cabinet for Swansea, for example, approved the funding last week. So that should occur in all of the 3 local authorities. On then to Schedule 10 in the legal agreement, that'll be Ian Altman's focus as the lead officer, who will be talking about the annual business plan that Partneriaeth has. And we will hear from Ian what the content of that is and the nature of Partneriaeth. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Helen. Ian.
Board up. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm having a few technical issues this morning, so I've got a bit of support in to share my screen. So hopefully I'll be able to do that and then take you through the key elements of our business plan and our work program. So I'm just going to share my screen. I may well lose you for a few minutes as I go through my my presentation. Okay, I can see Helen on the screen, so I'm hoping she's going to nod and tell me that the presentation is there. That's great, thank you. Okay, I'll just give a sort of very quick overview of where we are in terms of our business planning cycle, really, and also in terms of our core functions. Obviously, there's some key differences there, and I know Helen just alluded to that. But the range of provision that our officers are delivering for schools are on the slide there. I won't go through them all, and obviously I'll reference them as I look at various bits of the business plan. So there's a range. The leadership programs are very much still there in terms of developing our next level of middle leaders, senior leaders, and head teachers, as is the core elements of supporting schools for curriculum implementation and the whole transformation journey. There's still an element of secondary support and qualifications, and a range of different areas that I'll take you through in a little bit more detail in a few moments time. As you see from this slide, it's a much smaller organisation than we were previously. Obviously, when we had 6 local authorities, we've got myself in the role of lead officer, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about the role that Cresty, Greg and Gwenan play in terms of their links with the local authority, and also their areas of the business plan that they oversee. We've then got our 3 lead advisors working on a range of strategic and operational delivery plans, and then the advisors and some of the seconded staff to support the leadership program, as well as the business support. So it's a smaller model than previously, and it means that all our staff are working in an agile manner, really, across a range of priorities, which is very much part of the vision for Partneriaeth, really, that we would be working across a range of different areas rather than being siloed into one particular work stream, and that's what officers are currently delivering on. So the overview there you will see of the 3 local authorities, and Greg, Gwenan and Cresty as the local authority links there. It means that they attend a range of local fora and meetings, etc., to look at the strategic delivery of Partneriaeth, but also listen to the local authorities in terms of their priorities, and work very closely with senior officers to essentially develop that coherent and aligned work stream. And it very much is a partnership where our work and the local authority work is moving forward hand in hand, and we're just ensuring that we're meeting each other's priorities. And I think the core mantra is that we're adding value for our schools, and we're supplementing what's going on at a local authority level to ensure that delivery is consistently strong. So in terms of the business planning element there, it's a range of priorities really have been identified, linked to the funding that comes through, but it's all about realizing that into something that supports our schools, our leaders, our practitioners. Really, the governance you'll see there, again, we've got a stakeholder group of, it was called our head teacher reference board previously, where we've got heads from across the 3 local authorities and across sectors as well, to ensure that our plans are shared at that level. There's the group then with our senior officers from the local authorities meeting with ourselves as a leadership team, the regular meetings with directors of education, and again the support from Gareth, Helen and Stephen is sort of fundamental to moving this forward, really, as well as the challenge in terms of what it looks like for them as directors, the scrutiny group. And I appreciate the joint committee feedback is a little bit later on the agenda, but in terms of what the governance looks like, it is there. That's our Partneriaeth stakeholder group. So we've got as I said, a range of leaders across your local authorities who, again, we talk about plans, then we talk about the strategic level of planning, but we also talk to them about what that delivery looks like for them in terms of that level of support, particularly with some of the issues around curriculum reform, and to make sure that level of support is hitting the mark. What we've deliberately done, I think, during this iteration of the business plan, being mindful this is Partneriaeth's first business plan, really, is to ensure that those local authority priorities are front and center really of the document, and that all our work is aligning really to the priorities that you yourselves have as local authorities. Again, they're generally around leadership, the quality of teaching, and curriculum issues, etc., as well as a range of other issues. But rather than this being an annexed item at the back of the business plan, the feeling was that it was very important that this was front and center, and really the core of the work that we are as an organisation adding value to, really, in terms of the business planning element. We've got our 6 high-level priorities, if you like, really, and there's a range of operational plans that are fully costed that sit underneath this, really, but they range from that curriculum and assessment piece, and obviously did in our primary settings and around half of our secondary settings, actually starting in year 7 this year. That ongoing support for the curriculum assessment piece is our first priority, very closely linked into that high quality education profession, and just work on pedagogy and working and improving that delivery. They very much go hand in hand. The operational plans, there's a natural overlap between the two, because really they shouldn't be separated, because we need strong practitioners in the classroom delivering on a range of area is still there. And again, that's a whole, almost a professional pathway, if you like, that we support there in terms of those national programs and those endorsed programs, to ensure that we are continuing to support leaders as they move through the system, right up until the point where they're experienced head teachers, and the support that even those experienced leaders are getting. The Strong and Inclusive Schools committed to excellent equity and wellbeing, again, that flows through all elements, really, in terms of learner well-being and what those resources look like to support all our learners. The self-improvement system bit around the schools being able to have the skills to self-evaluate and work on themselves as schools, as learning organisations, to identify their own priorities and work forward. And the 6th one is just ensuring that our governance is strong, but there's effective and well-monitored business planning, and that operational support is providing value for money moving forward, really, in terms of what our officers are doing and what diet schools are getting from us in terms of the level of support, really. So our work is captured on the Partneriaeth website. So we've got our professional learning offer, information about it. We've then got a separate area for the Curriculum for Wales work, which allows our leaders, our practitioners, access to a range of synchronous and asynchronous resources. And again, the weekly newsletter that goes out to schools is captured there, as well as a range of other resources, really. So again, this is referenced in the newsletter every week. Schools are aware that that this is there, and it's also being captured in a PDF document, so leaders can actually have access to it and share it with their staff in terms of what that resource looks like. It's constantly being updated, so there's a range of different workshops happening at the moment in terms of progression, for example. That will then be updated when we move on, and really the next piece after the progression piece will be a range of support, really, for that assessment agenda and what that looks like. So in terms of our internal mechanism, that's the business planning bit, and that's how our schools really receive the information in terms of what the offer looks like for them. They're interested in what that concrete offer is and what level of support they can get from a universal offer. And I'll talk a little bit about the bespoke offer for our schools in a couple of minutes' time. Support, really, and how our schools access that. It will either come from that improvement advisor, challenge advisors, as was the phrase used previously. We tend to use the phrase improvement advisor now, where they've identified a need for support that sits within our core function, that will come through to us, and you know, in all likelihood, Greg Cressy or Gwennan as the lead for that local authority will have a discussion, and we'll ensure that that level of support is appropriate and it's logged on our systems, and you can see the number of days support that our schools are getting. The other route, we also want to talk to head teachers, and we've been to talk to head teachers, 3 of our local authorities.
Sorry to interrupt, Ian.
This year, really, to ensure that we're also encouraging. Sorry, can you hear me, Helen?
Yeah, sorry, Ian. Just to say, your sound is deteriorating. Wondering if you can turn your video off to improve your sound quality.
Okay, I will give it a go. Thank you.
Thank you.
You still there, Ian? Oh.
I am. Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm just trying to share the screen.
Yeah, now we can. Yeah, great.
Okay, right. I will. Can you see the slide? Sorry, there, Chair.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the head teacher school route.
Yes, that's it. Sorry, and I apologise for the quality. I've had some terrible IT issues this morning, so I will plough on. Hopefully, you can hear me, and you'll probably benefit from not seeing me anyway, I'm sure. So I will carry on. So the head teacher route there is one where obviously we were very keen to encourage our head teachers to contact us directly to talk about some of their priorities, and you know, also have a look at what that cluster work looked like for them and how we could support that appropriately. And again, really important that we keep local authority officers in the loop here in terms of what the support looks like for their schools, and that we support that route as well. So, you know, we're trying to make the brokerage as clear as possible, just to ensure that support arrives for our schools quickly and appropriately, really. We've also put in place a cluster link, really. So we've got an officer who works with each cluster of schools. It's very much in keeping with expectations for Curriculum in Wales, really, that 3 to 16 discussion is happening in terms of progression for our learners. So we've ensured that each cluster in each of our settings really has got a link officer, and again, the hope that over time that will build that relationship to ensure also our clusters are having healthy conversations around progression assessment and all of those key elements to ensure that our learners got a pathway really out there throughout their school. The schools are aware of this. Our officers are attending their club at the moment, and they're having conversations around what that support could look like level for those particular schools. The operational planning is the more detailed level. Again, I won't go this with you, but you know, we've got operation plans in terms of the more detailed provision in terms of what that looks like. These plans are monitored at quarter, and at the moment we're pulling together those quarter 1 and 2 evaluations to ensure that interim report will be developed over the next week or so. You know, as we move into the sort of second half of the financial year, we're monitoring as possible. And sort of plans and the different operational plans are so each one has got a track, and there's regular conversations that would happen with the leave provision and the evaluation piece there. Really moving forward is going to, you know, become more and more strengthened as the work of the organisation progresses. Finally, is the the risk register. It's a slightly different format to our previous version with Eru, and it was very much built to risks are there in terms of not delivering on these 6 priorities, not meeting the needs that the local authorities have identified. That lack of support when there is engagement with Estin and the data protection piece, and the ensuring that as an organisation we provide and continue to provide value for money. The financial risks around the grant funding, really, and ensuring that we comply with regional consortia T's and C's, and then the risks with government. I think governance. Sorry, I think the risk around lack of clarity regarding the functions. I think over time, and certainly over the next few months, it will become much clearer in terms of our organisational functions. And again, we've been to head teacher groups and talked to them around this piece and what it looks like for them. And obviously, I've discussed with Joint Committee and now to you as a scrutiny board. Again, that communication with stakeholders is key, and stakeholders at all levels. I think it's easier sometimes for us to get to the leaders of the organisation. Sometimes our core purpose really needs to get to those practitioners to ensure that they're aware of what the offer is, and in terms of that governance, as you would have seen from the earlier slide, there's a strong governance profile really in terms of what that looks like from our head teacher board, our stakeholder board, up until the Joint Committee board. So that's a very brief summary from me really in terms of what our business planning and delivery looks like at the moment. As I said, we're working on a kind of interim review of where we are at the moment, and that will build into a fuller, much more detailed self-evaluation piece as we head towards the end of March and the end of that cycle. But we do review each event that we provide, and we review the support on a regular basis. So that's my update in terms of our business plan and our delivery. I will now attempt to stop sharing my screen if I can manage that.
Great, thank you, Ian. Yeah, there we are. We're all back. Could I ask if there are any questions to Ian or Helen? Anyone at all? If not, could I ask Ian? Obviously, key to a lot of your work is to make sure that the new curriculum works and there's the proper support given across all schools. Because I think one thing I've said before, probably to you, that obviously the old curriculum was very prescriptive, where teachers were told what to do almost each term, and this is quite new. And teachers possibly who've been using the old system for many years will find it difficult to get that transition to the new system. And really we need to help them, because it wasn't something, it's something that they've been used to, and they are, of course, our greatest assets. But if we fail on this, then only one set of people fail, and it'll be the pupils themselves. So I think that support for the curriculum is, I think, key to the work you do.
Yeah, I would agree completely, and I think that it's both the universal and the bespoke, because not all our schools are in the same position, the same part of their journey, I suppose, in terms of what that looks like. So I think it's giving schools the confidence to build their own, but also giving them that level of support with some tangible examples of what that could look like. And it is very different for schools. It's really exciting, but we need to mitigate that risk really by providing that consistent level of support across clusters, across all our schools. But there'll also be individual schools that we will be able to support in terms of, may well be that there's been a change in leadership or middle leadership within the school. And it's just really giving them that ability to have those conversations in their school and their clusters in terms of what that progression can look like and what that curriculum can look like. So it's very, very exciting, but it is also something that it's also a challenge, I think it's fair to say. And really, the conversation that we have with our local authorities around their schools is key, because they know their schools very well, and it's just ensuring that we're adding that value into the system to ensure that you're quite right, the provision is strong for our learners, and that's the fundamental element, really.
Certainly, I've spoken to a number of schools and teachers and so on, and a lot of them were so excited about the new curriculum, but just we need to hold the hands of those people who aren't quite as excited and make sure that it actually works for them too. And the only other point I'd make was I was very pleased to hear you saying about teamwork and so on. And even though it was happening in Eru, the perception wasn't there at some points with that organisation, and I'm very pleased to hear you say that it's front and centre of the new organisation, and because very often it's about chemistry and how you react, how you work with schools. Because I certainly, when I first joined the scrutiny group for Eru, and people were concerned that it was Eru against the schools almost. And that was changing big time towards the end, but certainly I was very pleased to hear your comments.
Yeah, my message to schools really is around that, we want to collaborate with our schools. We want to ensure that they're getting something from us. And I've sort of set that challenge to our head teachers as well, really, in terms of you come and let us know, what your needs are. And also, if something isn't quite right, we would expect to hear from you to ensure that we are pitching that at the right level. So I think I don't think we're called Partneriaeth by accident. I think it is that sense of partnership working and collaboration really that's at the centre of what we're doing.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to come in? No hands up, and there we are. Okay, great. Thank you both.
Linda,
Well,
sorry,
we have
2 hands up.
Yeah, I do
gosh,
have a
I
hand
can't
up.
see. Oh yes, I can. Sorry, I can see them now. Sorry, it's Sue and then Helen. Sorry, I do apologise. Yeah.
Thank you. It took me a while to find my hand. Some of them are a little bit different. Could I ask if we may have a copy of the presentation? I notice it's being recorded, but sometimes our training sessions go on to the central system for counsellors. So is it possible to have the presentation as well, please?
Yes, no problem at all. I'll send that through.
Oh, thank you, Ian. Thank you.
Helen.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say thank you to Ian for the very thorough work in preparing this very clear presentation this morning as to the terms of reference for the different groups and the Partneriaeth work. But to come back to you, Councillor Jones, on the concern around the curriculum, the Joint Committee has already met in October and has already identified the need to strengthen the narrative around risk. As you saw in Ian's presentation, there are 10 risks on the risk register at present, but the comment was made in the last Joint Committee that there was a need to strengthen the narrative, exactly as you have mentioned this morning, Councillor Jones.
Sorry, I'm muted. Thank you very much. If there aren't any other questions, we'll move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is outline of and feedback from Partneriaeth Joint Committee agenda. And that is, again, back to you, Helen and Ian.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to go first, and Ian can follow me if I forget anything. So the Joint Committee met on the 7th of October, and as you will see in your link in the agenda, there are draft minutes prepared for you, but just really to highlight 4 matters in terms of the decisions made by the Joint Committee. The first was, as you already know, the new chair is the leader of Carmarthenshire County Council, Councillor Darren Price. Secondly, the annual funding for Partneriaeth was identified up to August 2022, in addition to the expenditure for March 2023. but two items were considered in relation to funding. One was to review or reform the staffing costs in relation to the pay review, which is in the offing at the moment. So there'll be a need for consideration around additional costs for staff, and also to make use of less or fewer offices. At the moment, the offices for Partneriaeth are in the Llwyfan in Carmarthen. The lease itself has already significantly reduced because of the nature of Partneriaeth being considerably smaller than Eru was, but certainly there's a need to consider further how usage of the offices can be reduced so that we can use each other's offices across the different counties. Thirdly, in terms of the business plan, as you know, you heard the nature of the business plan from Ian, but the Joint Committee approved the business plan on the 7th of October. Fourthly, as I've already mentioned, the risk profile has been accepted by the Joint Committee on the condition that there is a need to revise the narrative around risk on curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. Ian.
No additional. I think Helen's done a marvellous job of feeding back there in terms of the in the minutes and sort of summarising. I think one additional point from Joint Committee really was that looking forward to that more detailed evaluation of how the business plan is progressing. And again, that's something that we're working on the interim one at the moment. And again, there'll be a fuller evaluation available to yourselves, but also to Joint Committee as the year progresses. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any questions to Helen and Ian? No hands up. I'm looking now, you see, so that's good. Okay, well, we move on to the next item. Thank you very much. Can I say really thanks for the really detailed presentations. And that was really, really useful. So thank you very much indeed, because it sets focus on what we might be wanting to do over the next year. So thank you. The next item on the agenda, number 7, is discussing and agreeing the scrutiny work programme. And can I hand over to Michelle?
Hello, sorry, my mute wouldn't come off.
Right,
yeah, let me just get it up. Sorry, it seems to have gone from my screen. So get it back up again now. Oops. Seems to have closed itself. Right. To the end of the agenda, there we are. Work programme. Okay, so the work programme has been based upon the legal agreement, which states that there are a number of things that need to be included. So I've just put in here the very core of what that is. So you will probably need to have a think about what you'd like to see on the work programme. And I believe that Ian Altman has a possible suggestion about having some lead officers coming along as well. But the legal agreement says that the scrutiny of a councillor group should seek to consider its Partneriaeth is operating in accordance with the joint committee agreement, its business plan, timetable, and is managed effectively, in particular to review and scrutinise the joint committee's financial affairs, review and assess the joint committee's risk management, internal control and corporate governance arrangements, and review and assess the economy, efficiency and effectiveness of all those resources that are used. Also that the Director of Education should attend together at least once a year, and that the chair of the joint committee should attend once an annum, once a year. So I've plotted those in because obviously there's only 2 meetings so far that are plotted based upon the dates of the joint committee. So these meetings fall within a couple of weeks after each joint committee meeting. So if you'd like to have a little look, and your thoughts would be appreciated, so that we can then amend as necessary. I don't know if Ian, if you wanted to come in briefly on the suggestions that you may have.
Just a suggestion really in terms of business planning, whether it would make sense to have a couple of additional officers in attendance to talk about the areas they lead on, you know, curriculums of fundamental importance at the moment in terms of how it's been implemented in your schools. And it may well be that you would like to look at one or two areas of the business plan in a future meeting, and we can sort of present on where we feel the implementation is going, and any issues there, if that's what the scrutiny board would like. Yeah.
Thank you, Ian. Peter has got his hand up. Peter Black.
Yeah, thanks. Can I just first of all say that the links to the agenda doesn't work on PDFs. So if we're going to get links to agendas in the future, can you put them in the email so we can actually open them more easily? That's the first thing. It seems to me that if we're going to scrutinise properly, we need to focus on the priorities which the partnership is actually adopted. And it would make sense to me that if there are 6 strategic priorities in the plan, to actually work our way through those priorities, having reports on each priority and how they're being attained and implemented. And then that gives us a sort of logical way of looking at how effective the organisation is, how they're achieving those priorities, and whether or not there are any shortcomings in each one which we may need to address. That just seems to me to be the most systematic and methodical way to properly scrutinise what the partnership is doing.
Great. Thank you, Peter. I'd support that. That's a very logical way through, and they are the priorities, and we can see how the group are working to those, and also the risk summary as well, isn't it? Really great. Thank you. Michelle, did you want to come back, or
no? That's
right. Okay.
Just...
Any questions from anyone? Any other hands up? No. What we will do then is to work through the work program. We'll send it round to everybody, so you can, anything you'd like to add or whatever, and we'll include the points that you made, Peter, and about the risk assessment. So and Ian. So we'll put that in and send it round for people's consideration, and we'll then we can build it. But it's a moving feast as well. And you find, and I certainly find in Swansea scrutiny, we add things in as the year goes on, because that's what we need to do. So it is a moving feast. So it's not sort of set in stone at any one time.
It may be a good idea, Chair, if we actually had an update on the risk assessment each meeting. We're only meeting 3 times a year, so we can see whether we can ensure they'll all remain green or amber, and we can also see then whether anything is moving towards red, which we might need to address in the future.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, we'll take that on board as well, and thank you. Right. Okay. Well, we'll get that organised and sent out to you for your consideration, and if you can get back to us then. So thanks. And the final point, the final item on the agenda, we're going through quite quickly today, is discuss points for the letter that we send to the joint committee arising from this meeting. So are there any points that you want to highlight? Obviously, I know Michelle has been taking notes, and they will be included in that. I think, personally, I'd like to highlight the curriculum into it, and but also the point about the teamwork as well, because I think we need to make sure that is happening. It is great that the way Ian said, and how we how it's changed and the ethos has changed, and I really welcome it. But we could highlight that in the letter as well. Any other points from anyone? No, if not, we'll send the letter around to everybody for you to, if you would like to add anything, or think we want to say something differently or something. Okay, so you'll have a say in that. If there are no further matters on this, I'll close the meeting and look forward to seeing you on the 13th of February. Thank you all very much.